What if everything you have been told about bloating, brain fog, and that 3 p.m. crash is wrong? Not slightly off, deeply, fundamentally wrong. Because while mainstream wellness keeps selling you elimination diets and fancy water bottles, the actual science of 2026 is pointing at something most people are not even looking at. The living ecosystem inside your gut that controls more of your daily experience than your brain does. And here is the thing nobody wants to admit out loud. Over 70% of adults in the United States are walking around right now with a gut microbiome that is so out of balance, it is quietly sabotaging their energy, their mood, their focus, and their metabolism before they even finish their morning coffee. You might be one of them, and you would not know it, because the symptoms look like everything except a gut problem. That is what we are fixing today. Stay with me, because the 5 things I am sharing with you are not the usual advice. This is the stuff that actually works in 2026. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let us talk about where we actually are right now, because context matters. The American gut is in crisis, and that is not a dramatic statement. It is what the data says. A 2025 large-scale microbiome mapping study out of the University of California found that 71% of the American adults sampled showed measurable dysbiosis, meaning the ratio of beneficial to harmful bacteria in their gut was clinically imbalanced. Not borderline, measurably, significantly imbalanced. That number was 48% in 2015. Think about that trajectory. In 10 years, we went from roughly half to nearly 3/4 of the population walking around with a compromised gut ecosystem. And what do people feel when this is happening to them? Bloating after meals that seem totally normal. A foggy, slow brain that coffee cannot fix. Skin flare-ups that come and go without explanation. Mood dips that feel disproportionate to circumstances. Cravings for sugar and refined carbs that feel impossible to resist. Sound familiar? Drop a symptom in the comments, because I guarantee you are not alone. And what you share will actually shape what we dig deeper into in upcoming episodes. The good news is this: the science of 2026 has given us 5 specific sequenced daily interventions that can begin shifting your microbiome composition within 72 hours. Not 90 days, 72 hours. Here is what they are, and here is why they work. Fact 1. Bloating is not a digestion problem. It is a dysbiosis signal. Most people treat bloating like it is a plumbing issue. Eat the wrong food, bloat, avoid that food, problem solved. But that model is outdated, and it is keeping millions of people stuck. Here is what is actually happening. When your gut microbiome is in dysbiosis, when harmful gas-producing bacteria like proteobacteria and certain strains of E. coli have overtaken the real estate that beneficial Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium species should be occupying. Those harmful bacteria ferment carbohydrates in ways that produce excessive hydrogen and methane gas as byproducts. That gas has nowhere to go except outward. Your bloating is not a food sensitivity. Your bloating is a bacterial census report. It is your body telling you who is winning the war inside your intestines. And here is where it gets more serious. When proteobacteria overgrowth is sustained, it produces a compound called lipopolysaccharide, LPS, which can breach a weakened intestinal lining and enter your bloodstream. This is what researchers call metabolic endotoxemia, and a 2024 paper published in Nature Metabolism linked chronic LPS elevation to systemic inflammation, insulin resistance, and, this one stopped me cold, accelerated neurodegeneration. Your bloating is not just uncomfortable. Untreated, chronic dysbiosis is a risk factor for conditions that will define your health in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. So what do you actually do about it? Because knowing this without a pathway forward is just anxiety-inducing. Let me walk you through exactly what the research says. Fact 2. The 2 timing hacks that change everything. Here is something almost no one talks about, and it is one of the most actionable findings from microbiome research in the last 2 years. It is not just what you eat for your gut, it is when and how you sequence it. 2 specific timing interventions have repeatedly shown statistically significant effects on microbiome diversity and composition. Hack number 1 is fermented food timing. Most people who eat fermented foods, yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, eat them whenever. Breakfast, sometimes with dinner, randomly. But a 2024 clinical study from the Stanford Human Food Project showed that consuming fermented foods within the first 90 minutes of waking had meaningfully better outcomes for microbial diversity compared to consuming the same foods later in the day. The proposed mechanism involves cortisol's morning peak, which transiently increases intestinal permeability, meaning your gut lining is actually more receptive to colonization by beneficial bacteria in the early morning window. You are not just eating probiotics, you are timing delivery when the door is most open. Hack number 2 is prebiotic hour. Prebiotics, the indigestible fibers found in foods like garlic, onions, leeks, slightly underripe bananas and oats, are the fuel source that allows your beneficial bacteria to survive and multiply. The timing insight here is this. Consuming your primary prebiotic intake approximately 1 hour before your largest meal of the day primes your gut bacteria to produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate at peak levels, precisely when your digestive system is most active. Butyrate is not a minor character. It is the primary energy source for your colonocytes, the cells lining your colon, and adequate butyrate production is directly linked to intestinal barrier integrity. No butyrate, no barrier. No barrier, LPS in your blood. The sequence matters. Fermented foods first thing, prebiotic fiber before your biggest meal. 2 moves, enormous downstream effect. Fact 3. The 2 silent gut killers. Nobody warns you about you can eat perfectly, organic, diverse, fermented, fiber-rich, and still be losing ground in your microbiome. How? Because 2 factors that have nothing to do with food are actively destroying your gut ecosystem every single day, and most wellness content barely mentions them. The first is chronic psychological stress. This is not a soft feel-good concern. The gut-brain axis, the bidirectional communication highway running between your enteric nervous system and your central nervous system via the vagus nerve, is physiologically real. When you are under sustained stress, your body elevates cortisol and activates the sympathetic nervous system, which measurably reduces blood flow to the intestines, slows motility, and alters the pH environment of your gut in ways that selectively kill off acid-sensitive beneficial bacteria. A 2025 meta-analysis published in Psychoneuroendocrinology confirmed that individuals with chronic stress markers showed significantly lower Lactobacillus and Faecalibacterium prausnitzii populations, 2 of the most critically protective gut species we know of. Faecalibacterium prausnitzii in particular is considered a biomarker of gut health. Low levels are associated with Crohn's disease, IBS, and depression. Stress is not just in your head. It is destroying your microbiome in ways that will make you feel worse, which creates more stress, which destroys your microbiome further. That loop has a name, the gut-brain dysbiosis spiral. The second silent killer is disrupted sleep, and specifically the circadian misalignment between your sleep schedule and your gut microbiome's own biological clock. Yes, your gut bacteria have a circadian rhythm. Research out of the Weizmann Institute of Science showed that the gut microbiome oscillates in composition and metabolic activity across a 24-hour cycle, and when human sleep patterns are irregular or truncated, That microbial oscillation is disrupted in ways that parallel the disruption seen in full dysbiosis. Shift workers, late-night screen users, people with inconsistent wake times. They are not just tired. They are systematically destabilizing their gut ecosystem night after night. Does this mean you need perfect sleep every night to have a healthy gut? No, but it means consistent sleep timing. Going to bed and waking within a 30-minute window daily is a microbiome intervention as powerful as dietary change. That is not common knowledge. Now it is yours. So let us sequence this, because information without a clear daily structure is just noise, and you deserve more than noise. Here is the daily protocol that the current science supports. Within 90 minutes of waking, eat a small serving of fermented food, kefir, yogurt with live cultures, or a tablespoon of kimchi. Do not overthink the portion. The timing is the variable. Approximately 1 hour before your largest meal, consume your prebiotic anchor. Half a cup of oats, a serving of garlic-forward food, or a slightly underripe banana. This primes butyrate production at the right moment. Build one genuine stress interruption into your day, not an app notification, not a breathing exercise you skip. A real, scheduled, non-negotiable window where your nervous system is not in fight or flight. Even 12 minutes of slow walking outside measurably reduces cortisol and improves vagal tone, which directly benefits gut motility and microbial diversity. Anchor your sleep. Same bedtime, same wake time, including weekends. Your gut bacteria will recalibrate their circadian rhythm within 2 weeks of consistency. And fifth, if you want to accelerate the entire process, give your gut a targeted microbial support tool. Prime Biome was formulated specifically around the 2024 and 2025 research we have been discussing today, combining the bacterial strains with the highest clinical evidence for butyrate production and intestinal barrier support. It is not a replacement for the daily habits, it is the amplifier. Think of it as upgrading your gut's hardware while the daily habits upgrade the software. When both are running together, the timeline for noticeable change compresses dramatically. People who have implemented this full stack, the timing hacks, the stress protocol, the sleep anchoring, and Prime Biome, report meaningful reductions in bloating within the first week and measurable improvements in mental clarity within 2 to 3 weeks. That is not marketing language. That is what the feedback loop looks like when you stop guessing and start sequencing. Here is your next step, and I want to make it as easy as possible. I have put together a free resource called the Anti-Mental Fog Lunch Checklist. It maps out the exact midday meal structure that supports the prebiotic timing window, optimizes butyrate production from your afternoon food choices, and directly counters the gut-driven cognitive dip that most people feel between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. It is free. Link is in the description right now. Download it before you close this tab, because the lunch window is the highest leverage moment most people are completely wasting for their gut health. And if you want to go further, if you want to give your microbiome the bacterial reinforcements it actually needs while you build these daily habits, check out Prime Biome, also linked below. Not because I want you to buy something, because after everything we covered today, the research is clear. The fastest path to a quieter gut, a sharper brain, and stable energy is a combination of smart daily timing and targeted microbial support. You now have both pieces. Use them. Your gut has been trying to tell you something for a long time. Today, you finally have the language to listen and the tools to respond. Thanks for watching. Like, share, comment and subscribe.